Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Um, we meet again on my course about the principle of teaching and learning. Uh, this week, we we will discuss learning styles and strategies. Um, there are two main components of this topic. The first one is styles, and the other one is strategies. Okay. Uh, why and what for we have to study this topic. I will try to give you the the, the rationales, of studying this. Okay, when we have completed studying learning styles and strategies, you are expected to understand how people learn. People here can be referred to your students. Yeah? And then next, you are expected to understand the definition of learning style and learning strategies. And then next, you have to be able to distinguish between style and strategies. And the other thing is you can explain the essence or the essential things related to learning style and strategies. Uh, the further objective is you have to know types of learning styles and strategies, know relevant teaching strategies, and then principle for teaching learning styles and strategies. And the last thing is important features of your own learning, of your own learning style and strategies. Okay, you will do like self-checking on your own learning style and strategies. Yeah. Okay, so how do we learn? There are at least three ways of learning. The first one is by seeing or visual. Um, some of us can just watch a tutorial of doing particular things, and then after that, he or she can uh, just follow the activity and complete the same task without being explained directly using you know chart or graphic or other illustration. Uh, he or she prefers to see the visual, not by hearing the explanation. The second uh, type of uh, learning is by hearing or auditory. Some people prefer listening activities as their main way of learning. And the last thing is by touching or tactile. This kind of person, uh, they prefer to to have to engage physically with the things they learn. Okay, and then why? And sorry, before going further with styles and strategies, I have to tell you that the fundamental theories by some experts became the basis of this topic, learning styles and strategies. But there are at least two um, prominent figures from psychology who influenced this idea of studying styles and strategies in education. The first one, Carl Jung in 1976, and Jean Piaget in 1968. Uh, these two people, these two persons, are so famous with their theories about how human learn based on their psychological aspect. And then in the last decade, we have seen work is specifically devoted to learning style and English language. We have so many works like in Market Wright, in Zella, Oxford and Anderson. You can go further by browsing the related or relevant literature on these styles and strategies. But as your on course project this week, in my course, right after watching this video, you have to do some of these steps. You have to conduct all of these steps. Okay, the first one, you have to find relevant ideas of Jung and Piaget, related to learning style and strategies. How would you do that? You have to browse uh, anything related to their ideas in psychology that are considered relevant to the ideas of studying students or learning styles and strategies. Okay, that is the first step you have to do after watching this video, and then next you have to write your very short summary. It's not really long. It should be brief. The summary of their ideas, what comes from Jung, what comes from Piaget, and then you summarize both of them, and then give your own perspective towards those ideas from both of them. And then after that, after you have it written, the summary and your own perspective, I remind you once again, should be brief. And then you have to post your summary and your perspective on the comments space of my posted video on YouTube. Okay, and then don't forget to put your name, your student number, and class. That will be your on-course activity for this section. Okay. Okay. Next, learning styles refer to an individual's natural, habitual, and preferred ways of absorbing, processing, retaining new information and skills. Okay, so it's a habitual. Okay. Habitual means you have experienced a lot of things in your life, and then it it, it construct all of them construct your habits. Like, for instance, a simple thing like the way you dress up yourself. Okay. Maybe it is a habit for you to start from lower part of your body or upper part of your body, but it's habit. Sometimes it you don't realize it, but it it's regularly happens, because you do it as your habit. Another example, like, what is your common ritual? I mean, it's not ritual like traditional ritual. Your own ritual after getting up from your bed, and then what is the first thing you do, the next thing you do, and so on and so forth. That is part of habit. Learning also something like that is the way you absorb. Absorb means you take. Yeah, when someone is talking in front of you, and then you grab the idea. People have different ways of grabbing the idea. That is absorbing, and then processing means they the someone who is uh, speaking in front of you, and then providing you so many information, and then you have the way of processing the information, and then you take maybe your comprehension, your understanding, and anything after processing the information, and then retaining. Yeah, means finally you get the essential things from the process. Yeah. So what things we absorb, we process, and we retain from learning actually is information and skills. Okay, information and skills. So when someone is talking to you, but they, but he or she is talking about something which is not new for you, you don't learn. Yeah? You don't learn. You learn something new. Okay, new information and new skills. And then maybe they talk something that you think that you have known or you have acquired, but she or he uh, gives you new things from that. It is learning. So learning is not always about new things, but also you you understand the same thing or something that you have understood before, but with different perspective that you consider as new way of understanding the the things. Okay, so new here refers to a situation where you yourself decide that the information that given to you is something, this is new, even it's about the things that I know so far. Okay, and then the question is, where do learning styles come from? Yeah, that will be interesting. Yeah, because later we will see, yeah, uh, what creates styles, what encourage people to learn that way, not this way. And why should teachers know about learning stuff? Can you imagine the reason? Uh, because we are learning about transformative uh, teaching this semester. So, by knowing your students, it gives you uh, knowledge and capacity to expose your students in the best way they can, they the best way they prefer to do, or the best way they prefer to learn. Why? Because learning, uh, as as what we remember from the previous meeting, we have to make sure our students to learn, yeah, not to succeed with their uh, final test or assessment or something, but to make sure there are process of learning, in our class, and that's why learning uh, will happen if you uh, give, or if you know your students and give them opportunity to explore themselves based on what they prefer, uh, their styles, their learning styles. For example, we have talked about the visual person, or auditory person, or practical person. Maybe because you know the type of your students, and then the activities in your class will be modified based on those categories of learners. That actually it's a one thing when we discuss learning styles and strategies. Okay. Next, so teaching strategies refer to characteristics we want to stimulate in students through different methodologies, okay, of teaching in an effective learning process to enable them to become more proficient learners. See, so uh, teaching strategies is particular uh, particular method or different method combination of methodologies of teaching in an effective learning process. You want to provide, you want to stimulate your students to take part in learning process. It should be effective learning and then proficient learners. So if you want to give effective learning process and make them to be proficient learners, yeah, you have to have proper teaching strategies. So uh, why 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 is it important of learning style? We know diverse learning communities. Okay, you might experience this, and then determine what's best for your students. Every student has their own characteristic. Mismatch between instruction and learning style can create disaster. Okay, okay. This is the highlight. Why knowing learning style is very important for you as a teacher. Okay, learning style type one, cognitive style. Okay, cognitive means something happens in brain. Okay? So this is the first one. Based on the cognitive style, there are types of there are two subtypes of learners. The first one, field independent. Okay, field dependent learns best when the information is presented in context. They are often more fluent language learners. Okay, it means learns best when the information is so they don't like it's not about like or dislike, but it's it is more helpful or easier for them to to learn things based on context. So don't make it apart from the context, because that is the way they learn. Feel independent, the other subtypes of cognitive style, learns most effectively step by step with sequential instruction. This kind of person, they have to be guided step by step by the teacher. You cannot let him or her go, uh, you know, through all of the activity in one time. This kind of person have more accuracy on learning learning language, but the other one is more fluent. Okay, learning style. Type 1, cognitive styles. The subtypes, the other things about cognitive style is some of your students may be analytic, which is he or she can work effectively better alone or his or her own pace. This kind of students uh, doesn't prefer to work in group. But the global, the next subtype of learning style and cognitive style, global works more effectively in groups. They are very independent to others. Another subtypes in cognitive style is reflective. This kind of students learns more effectively when they have time to consider new information before responding. Okay, so they prefer to have time to consider new information. So they like to process first. Okay, what about impulsive? Impulsive students learns more effectively when they can respond to new information immediately. They like to take a risk. They like to give spontaneous response. That is impulsive. Reflective students is, let's say, they are more uh, careful in responding question. They have to process first, and then after that they decide what they should say or based on their understanding. The impulsive one sometimes they just hit anything. You kick a question and then your student will kick it back to you without any consideration and taking more risk than your than the reflective one. Okay. Okay. So the second one, learning style, type two, sensory style. Okay? Learn best when there is visual reinforcement such as chart, pictures, graphs. This kind of students uh, cannot learning. They prefer to learn from chart, pictures, graphs. They like visual. They like they like their eyes to engage in that activity. Okay, their sensitivity. So it's they this kind of student prefer visual. Like you can use PowerPoint, video, or anything. Okay. Okay. Learning styles, sensory styles, auditory. La- Learns more effectively by listening to information. Yeah, this kind of person, maybe they don't like to see, they don't like to read, but they just listen and then they have uh, they have built up their understanding based on their listening. Yeah. I think some of us have this capacity. The other thing is type 2 sensory styles is tactile, learns more effectively when there is no opportunity to use manipulative, when there is no opportunity to use manipulative resources. It means uh, this kind of learners, they want to engage. Okay, if you want to teach uh, him or her about particular part of language, and then you have to make this kind of this type of learners to make engagement with tools or anything that they can manipulate so they can take understanding from that, like using pictures and then put names of part of eyes or part of bodies or anything that you think can make them engage with the learning using manipulative resources. Or you can use computer games or other resources. Also, toys like this. And the other things is kinesthetic learns more effectively when there is movement associated with learning. This kind of learners like to deal with activity, physical activity, like maybe they have to run or they have to walk, they have to move or mobile or whatever, which is they like to learn using that kind of activities. Yeah. Um, environmental, yeah. Physical, okay, sensory style, sensitive to learning environment such as light, temperature, furniture, sociological sensitive to relationships within the learning environment. Okay, this means some people don't need other people to learn, or they don't need other people doing while learning. Physical means yeah, environment like light, temperature. Okay, next, personality style, type 3. Tolerance of ambiguity refers to how comfortable a learner with uncertainty. Uh, some students, uh, some students uh, feel well in situation where there are several possible answers. Others prefer one correct answer. So some people don't like in that situation. They have to be encountered with multiple answers which are potentially correct. So they they don't like ambiguity. They want certainty. Yeah. So this is personality style. Yeah. And then right and left hemisphere, right and left hemisphere. Left brain dominantly learners tend to be more visual, analytical, reflective, and self-reliant. Okay, or left brain. And our right brain dominant learners tend to be more auditory, global, impulsive, and interactive. Okay, you can imagine what happened when people with dominant left brain dominant and right brain dominant, based on our previous discussion just now. Okay, so teaching strategy. Uh, I will slightly talk about this because you have to read more. It's quite complex to understand only in one section about teaching strategy. Okay, metacognitive. You have to deal with planning. Okay, monitoring and evaluating. Okay, that is the step of metacognitive. Cognitive strategy is summarizing, induction, imagery. Okay, this is the result related to representation, making inference, using inference. Okay, cognitive strategy, grouping, note taking, elaboration of prior knowledge. Social effective strategy, cooperating, clarifying, self-talk. Okay, you can read further dealing with teaching strategy, but what I want you to do first, you have to understand learning style and strategy first. Okay. Okay, and then Mm, audit your teaching means you have to check. Mm, this learning style, yeah. These are learning style. Okay, okay. I think that's all our course today. Remember, I give you um, on course assignment. You have to make a summary and give your perspective. That's all. I want you to really read about this. It's easy to find any resources related to learning styles and strategies. So I encourage you to browse more readings from articles or any resources to improve your understanding. Okay. Thank you for your attention, and I will see you next week with different topic. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.